Yes, perfect. Thank you. Thank you, Barbara. I feel very honored, actually, that you asked me to do this keynote for the Conf IRM conference this year. And I don't know where the camera is. It's a little bit spooky. There it is. It follows me. Okay. uh, and also, thank you to set very high expectations. So I hope I can meet them, and I hope I can give you some uh, maybe some insights, also some personal insights and some insights from our company, what we have been through the last more than 15, 14 months now since the breakout in Europe. And yes, the topic is resilience and digital transformation in a post-pandemic world, which when Barbara asked me the first time was a very interesting topic to me, and then I found out after some time, and you all know how fast the change is currently going, that there's already been very much research about it. Also, different consulting agencies and companies are trying to get to this topic and put it into action. And before I start with my keynote, I would like to get you some context where I come from, and I prepared a video that shows the voestalpine and the role of IT, and based on the IT strategy of voestalpine, and I hope this will work.
We are a globally leading steel and technology group. We are continuously shaping the future with new developments. Information technology is a decisive factor in our competitiveness. Data streams, information flows, and IT solutions are a part of our daily business. Just like the CPU of a computer, we see information technology as an important basis for voestalpine. Our IT strategy controls, connects, holds together, and makes many things possible with simple rules. Our strategic guidelines are the basis for this. IT creates added value. IT creates integration. IT requires control. With a good strategy, we always know if everything is going according to plan. Critical success factors function like guardrails to keep us on track. With our IT solutions, we place high priority on efficiency and sustainable effectiveness. Security and reliability are essential for our business processes. The IT we use matches the high quality of voestalpine and can be quickly adapted when necessary. This doesn't mean that we always use the latest technologies, but rather that we make full use of the IT solutions already deployed. The focus is on functionality and end-to-end integration. We make sure our employees are networked in the best possible way. People are our most precious asset at voestalpine. This is why we place great importance on training and professional development. Our IT governance is consistent. Application architecture management and uniform IT controlling are essential for this. IT at voestalpine is overarching and crucial. Precise operating procedures have been defined in the IT disciplines. In our life cycle management, for example, we make sure that IT solutions are well planned, produced at low cost, and contribute value for as long as possible. Risk and IT security management are also important to us. We know every IT device in our networks and know with whom it communicates. Structure and people are also essential in IT. No matter whether you're a management board member, an IT manager, a process automation specialist, project manager, or production employee, IT is an issue for all of us. We all bear responsibility for our activities.
voestalpine. One step ahead.
So back again, I hope you got a little bit of an insight about voestalpine as a company and the role of IT in our context. And that's also maybe the information you need for my background. As Barbara already said, I'm on one side I'm a lecturer, an external lecturer at the Johannes Kepler University on the Institute of Business Information and in Management and Engineering. And on the other hand, that's my full-part job and my that's where my basic and where my heart goes is voestalpine, where I contributing to information management and digitalization in my function there. And you saw the voestalpine now in the IT strategy. Just to give you a short insight what we're doing, we are an innovative and leading steel and technology producer, globally active and a major partner for automotive companies, the automotive industry, oil and gas industry, the energy industry in general, and also the house industry and machinery industry. Everywhere where high quality steel is needed, actually. And we have about it's a group of 500 companies distributed about 50 different countries in all 5 continents. It's very easy to remember with the 5 in it. And almost 50,000 employees, so another 5. And we are separated into 4 divisions, and I'm representing the steel division, which is actually the largest in terms of revenue, not in employees. And we are the global market leader actually for heavy plate and steel strip, which might not say anything now for you, but I want to say it, and complex casings for large turbines. And we also have the other 3 divisions that I'm not going to deep dive into. Steel division is around 43 companies and 10,500 approximately employees, and mainly situated in Europe, here in Linz, that's the home base, but also in North America and Asia and South Africa. So what is our basic goal and our key to our success? Actually, it's we know that we play a leading role in the environmental and in the climate change as a steel producer, and we take this responsibility very serious for not only now, since ages, since decades, and we are consistently establishing new standards in the fields of environmental technology. And you can read about it in the internet. I'm not going to deep dive into this. But we want and we want to be a benchmark in technology and innovation and sustainability in the future as well. And this also shows, this slide, that we put a lot of effort into research and innovation. We're one of the most research-intensive companies in Austria, and as a group also around the world that puts a lot of effort in it. You have the digits on this slide, but basically it says innovation is a key to our success at voestalpine. And for me personally, because research takes a very, very specific role, it's the perfect place for people like me who are, on the one hand side, are into running things, and on the other hand side, I want to understand how to run things as well. So that's basically why I love being here, and also hope I can give you some very good insights now. So let's get back to the topic. And the topic is resilience and digital transformation. These are 2 buzzwords that came along when Barbara asked me to do a keynote. I said, I'm hearing a lot about it, but I don't know what resilience means, and I don't know if it's really connected to digital transformation, and what can we maybe learn from it. So the scientific part in me was very curious, and so I got into this topic. And what you think in the first part is maybe you think about these 2 pictures. It's the first thing that comes to our mind, and I don't have to explain it, and you probably think, oh my God, not anymore, not once again. But I think it's very obvious and has been discussed in detail that COVID-19 and the pandemic situation really fostered digital transformation in many organizations, so I don't want to talk about this today. I'll give you some examples, but not go into deep dive. I want to concentrate, and I want to, if every one of you just think back, what was your first reaction when, for example, the people told you, tomorrow you have to do your class virtually. And in this moment, something happens in your brain, something happens in your mind. Something is changing. You're standing, there's a threat, there's a hurdle, there's something is very disruptive in your life. And you have a lot of other examples, I think, for this question. So what will happen tomorrow? So what we learned is we didn't know that if we are resilient to cope this situation, but resilience is always something that you know that you have it after the fact, and that's very interesting actually, and I want to go through this journey today. So resilience is something that is important when it comes to threats. So is it with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I think there's enough evidence that we can talk about resilience today. And if we see resilience as a process, and it's nothing that I invented, it's I did research, even though I'm doing a keynote and not a scientific speech now. There is always a threat at the beginning, something that causes disruption, something that stresses a change. And in the end, there are two possible outcomes. It could be negative or positive. It's that easy. But there's something in between. There's something happening. That's what I'm going to talk about today. First, there's a reaction. This reaction can either be a positive reaction or a negative reaction. And this depends mostly on the conditions, on the certain conditions that are existing, that I'm surrounding the field. It could be internal conditions when it comes to organizations, also external conditions. And depending on the use of these conditions and also the conditions that actually are in this moment available, you might have a very easy going way to a positive outcome of this threat, of this disruption, or you have to go on a long journey, very intensive journey, to meet the expectations, to use and gather knowledge, to start experimenting, try to innovate, try to change, to transform massively, to not go to the left side and have a positive outcome at the end. So that's actually the process that happens when you are resilient. And I was very eager to understand how is this related to digital transformation, and can we learn something out of it? Maybe can use it for other changes. So what's basically the most important thing about resilience and this process is that it is business transformation that has to happen in organizations, and it's not business continuity. A lot of people were talking about business continuity. This means we're going back to business as usual. We're going to do the same things that we did yesterday. So we better not do this at this time. And I think there are a lot of positive learnings, and it's business transformation, not continuity, that I'm talking about. So the other term was digital transformation. So let's put this in the context of the pandemic. Digital transformation for me personally, for an organization which is basically a socio-technical system, has two key tasks to handle and to deal with. And when people ask me, I always give them the same answer. On one side, it's a socialization task. Socialization means it's the process of learning and adopting things, and things could be anything. It could be technology, it could be new working routines, new values, new business models, new, I don't know, anything. And on the other hand, there's another task that's very important. It's integration. It's integration as a process of connecting things and introducing things. That's what we mainly do, or what's my job actually as an information manager at voestalpine. I'm trying to introduce new technology to the business. And that's very, very demanding, I can tell you. Why? Because there are two processes you always have to keep in mind. Also the socialization process. So, and cannot only concentrate on introducing things and connecting things, connecting data, connecting system, connecting processes, customers, vendors, suppliers. I also need to socialize and take this into account. So there was a change, I thought, when I think about these two tasks. So what basically was the change? Digital transformation for us is definitely nothing new. It has been a part of our daily business and also in the fields of information management engineering. And it was mainly driven by the needs and the needs of the business and also supporting their demands. So it was very hard to introduce new technology, like on this picture, if there's no understanding. If the business sees no need in it. So digital transformation is actually only an evolutionary process driven by technology. There's better technology, more technology that suddenly does not only support things, that doing things better than we did yesterday. We can now do things differently. We can now do different things that we weren't able to do before. And that's digital transformation. It means business transformation by technology. And yes, still coping with the same issues than before. But what tells us the difference now? The difference for me personally, and I have some evidence with me as well, is that the pre-pandemic focus in digital transformation was mainly on integration. It was introducing new technology, maybe integrate processes, integrate networks, ecosystems, and on. And the socialization phase, where the people are in the center of how you say it, actually in the center of the process itself, it wasn't really, there wasn't really a focus on. So what changed in the pandemic since day one, since the outbreak, since the big lockdowns, worldwide lockdowns and home office and everything was on social distance, there was a clear shift that suddenly people were forced into change, integrate, adopt, learn new things. So that meant that there is something different now. And that came with the pandemic. And what this also shows us is one very important thing. And me as an engineer on the one hand side, I was not so committed to this, but it is the truth. Digital transformation is led by the people and not by the technology. It's not deployed by engineers. It's created by engineers, but it's actually deployed. Decisions about technology deployment is made by the business, by the people. And as long as the socialization phase is not on the same level, it's almost impossible to introduce new technology. So there's a clear difference between socialization and integration for me. So let's put this all together, those two puzzles, into the pandemic situation. And it's actually very obvious what happened. So I just click through it, and we know the change and what was the threat in this case. And we could succeed in a sustainable environment, in a sustainable success for companies, in a sustainable productivity. Or on the other hand, we could drown in this situation. And we have a lot of examples, and but it's something we have to talk about it, that there are a lot of companies that did not make it because, and what was the reason? And I asked myself the same question. What could be the reason? And the reaction was mainly based, and the conditions that helped was the maturity of digitalization in the company. And we had that at the Best Paper Award. There are a lot of maturity models, so I'm on track. It really was a maturity of digital transformation in this specific company. Because these technologies did a lot for us to cope with this situation. And I'm not going to deep dive into the technologies, but digital maturity was the key condition and from the start, on which side am I when it comes to resilience. So digital transformation, if I'm already very mature in digital transformation, I just continue my digital transformation and I almost had no problem. But on the other hand, companies or organizations that are not that mature in digitalization, they had to do a very, very demanding run. It's a big gap, and it's a lot faster than before. So the reaction, and I'm gonna try to put some examples from the voestalpine now in it. And the reaction is something, I just recently read this on a internal message from our CFO, Mr. Robert Ottel, and he said, and I have to turn around to read it, the current pandemic has shown us even more clearly how important IT is at voestalpine and in our day-to-day work. Technologies have had to be adapted fast and comprehensively to changing conditions, and we see that the new applications and communication options are being very well accepted at voestalpine. The turbulences of the last few months have further increased our appreciation for IT. That goes down like butter, and the people behind it. So that changed so many things. The appreciation for IT, the adoption, and that's mainly based on this. And there's a study from McKinsey did recently that showed this big change in speed that happened. And this speed was mostly considered on the socialization process when it comes to digitalization. For example, the increase in remote working. Organizations planned 454 days to deal with this transformation process. Now it took them 10.5 days to set the whole staff on remote work. So that's impressive. And there are a lot of other examples on here. And I think you have enough examples how fast this change goes. So there was a clear speed shift. And what does this mean? Socialization was on warp 4. Everyone, there was no need to introduce or to explain something. The people used given already existing technologies, and they adopted it and learned it and were eager to experiment with it much faster than before. But on the other hand, it always has another side. The integration will lag behind. We see it in our company that we have a lot of new cloud-based services that we use for making our staff productive in remote working, for example. And it's very hard to technically integrate these things now into our landscape. Everyone was taking their equipment home networks, so we had to faster our protection, and this is something that happens step by step. So there was a clear speed shift in these two processes. When it comes to recovery, which means very demanding for the people or for the companies that were not digital mature enough, they had to, and there are very good examples. There are a lot of companies that did very, very well, but they needed to experiment. And this is from the same study from McKinsey that shows that industries put a lot of effort in experimenting things, not so much in calculating if there is a business need. There was a need to experiment, to try out new things. And now is the perfect time to show you how we did this at the voestalpine, because it's a lot of change and transformation going on, and it's also a lot of things that were based on the pandemic. There was this one thing that we all know, remote working, and we had a lot of new services. We were digital mature enough. We already had video conferencing, we had the whole infrastructure, and we had all our staff equipped with mobile devices and so on. So this shift was actually quite easy, but we had to make the team also productive, which means a video conferencing tool is not the only thing they need. Yes, and I think from education and virtual education, you know what I mean. The next thing was IT security. We put a lot of effort in IT security because of the different demands. We had to open our infrastructure to get the people into remote work, which means that we need to protect our endpoints even more, and we put a lot of effort in this. We put a lot of effort into awareness, into learnings, e-learnings for our employees to get an awareness about IT security, because you can have the safest and most secure system. If the user does not understand IT security, then this is your biggest problem. So we also did an e-learning platform, brand new multilingual with new ways of e-learning for like different learning types. This was something we had to do because of our staff. Digital customer interaction. We needed to also engage our customers to interact digitally because physically wasn't really a choice. And then some very experimenting things for us. We tried robotic process automation, and we did this in the administrative departments, especially at the finance, and that's why they called their first bot Wolfie, which is like Wally. And Wolfie is also a nickname for a German name, Wolfgang. So I will stop right here. And we're doing this in other business areas as well. We also did some sort of cooperation with SAP with the new technology on S/4HANA in our transportation management to get a completely paperless processes, because logistics are very paper intensive. And 5G. We are really implemented a 5G campus network on our side, a prototype campus network, not really on 5G, but the campus network technology that's behind and the software is actually based for 5G. It's still LTE in the background, but we tried it, we experimented with it, and we did this together with other partners. And we put a lot of effort, and we have an own department that's they spent their whole time with machine learning and deep learning, and they did something very impressive, and I want to show you this in a very, very short video, what they did.
voestalpine, one step ahead.
So this is something that wasn't only a playground. They really made an autonomous dump truck on our. I think it's a coal mine. We call it Kalk. I don't know. What's the English term? But you saw that it's possible, and we did this because there was no autonomous dump truck on the market. But we don't want an autonomous driving, we want an autonomous transportation, which means there are clearly rules, there are clearly conditions, safe conditions that not need this, and we did this on our own together with other companies. You saw them on those sailing flags. So, which means, and brings me to the key message, is breakthrough innovation in these times and also in other times always needs strong collaboration. And we saw this during the pandemic, and creating vaccines would be impossible in this speed if there would not be an international collaboration, if they would not share data and stuff like that. So what's the conclusion in the end? We're seeing that in situations that require resilience to react for a positive outcome, there is a need to change, to transform by the use of certain resources, which mainly depend on the given circumstances and conditions. And if we think about the possible future situations, threats that are already existing, like one of the biggest things is climate change. There might also be some other things. We should really raise the questions and understand the why and the how to maybe have answers and maybe can use these benefits for other changes, other challenges that are standing ahead of us. So after a resilient reaction, you usually feel like this. it does something with you. It feels like a victory. You achieved something. It's not really achievement, but it's a feel of happiness and a feel of motivating and very much optimism. And I think in the psychological part of resilience, these are very basic key factors that you need to be resilient. So this means that you are renewed. You emerge stronger out of this, and we can use this. On the a second positive effect would be that it makes people happy. It also does something with their ability and willingness for further changes. So they get a positive attitude towards change. And this is something very hard. We all know the change curve and things like that, and you're in the valley of tears and how to get out of it. We learn something that gives us a momentum so we can start the change much better than maybe before. We could use this. And there was a third thing. Suddenly, people had trust in technology and digital assistants. That's I see Barbara and Manuel smiling, but that's nothing that's very hard to get in the business life, to accept technology, to use technology, to learn, to be eager to learn technology. But there comes a big but with it, which means we also have to be careful. It's not always positive to have a lot of technology. This does not mean that we should try to use all the technology we have and put it into the business and confront people with it. We all know that we have to be very careful. It's about information overflow, information, what do you call it? Informationsüberfluss? Yes? Is that the right term? Okay. And technology is changing massively. It's impressive speed. And there's one thing that's where scientific research often is not the focus on. It's on the human side. It's on the humanity side. What happens? I can use AR for remote workers, but is it fun to work in an isolated room to support others because I'm the expert? Is that a goal, to be an expert in the future? I don't know. So we need to think and consider what happens with technology in use. And there's one last fact, and that's a little bit personal. I don't have any evidence, but I think very clearly that we can all see this, that there is a hidden factor that came with the pandemic, and we can really, really use it, and it shouldn't be underestimated. COVID-19 showed the world in a very concrete way how fast our future can change from today to tomorrow. It's nothing that we thought about before. So the future is unthinkable. We need imagination. And it created the ability to imagine. And imagination is something that is very strong, and Albert Einstein, I think he said this, imagination is stronger than knowledge, but it definitely is, and we should take care. There's never been a faster change on the whole world and the whole economy and the whole people before than with the pandemic. And this means that the people, especially the young people, they learned that tomorrow can change very, very fast. So I think we should take this into account, maybe use something out of it, use the ability now to imagine and to start to rethink together, start to reinvent together, and also please continue to massively research. That's basically it for me. I want to say thank you. If you have any questions, you're ready to ask.